The shuttle landed with a low hum on the surface of the forest moon. Tall trees stretched out in all directions, and the smell of wet moss filled the air. This was the start of the final survival test for students of the Interstellar Academy. For most alien species, it was a rite of passage. They would be dropped in a wild environment and tested on their ability to work in teams, gather resources, and build shelters, all without advanced technology. The students stepped out one by one, each carrying only a small backpack filled with basic tools and a map. Some had scales, some fur, and others had extra arms or glowing eyes. But all of them looked confident and eager except for Liam and Amber. The only humans in the group walked out last. Their boots crunched against the damp leaves. They looked calm, not excited or scared, just focused. They stood together while others formed into teams, each speaking in their native tongues, buzzing, clicking, or growling. Whispers followed the humans. "Why are they here?" A tall, thin alien with silver skin muttered. "Humans are soft. They live in warm cities. They don't know force. Maybe it's just for show." Another snorted. "They'll cry for help by the second night." The academy teacher, an older alien with golden feathers and a deep voice, addressed the students. "You have 7 days. Survive using the land. Tools are hidden throughout the forest. Those who work together will do well. Those who don't will learn." As soon as the signal was given, most teams ran off toward the deeper woods, trying to find shelters or supplies. First, some flew using small gliders. Others used their claws to climb trees or sniff the air to track food. The forest echoed with movement and shouting. But Liam and Amber didn't run. They opened their maps, studied the nearby hill, and slowly walked toward it. "That hill's solid," Liam said. "It'll protect us from wind, and water runs down it," Amber added. "Good drainage. Let's dig in." They didn't waste time watching others or competing. They found a patch of dirt near the hill's base and started clearing the ground. They used their hands first, then small shovels from their packs. They talked little, just nodded to each other, and kept working. By the end of the first hour, they had dug a shallow trench. By the second, the trench was deeper and shaped like a half circle. Liam began cutting branches into beams. Amber lined the walls with thick leaves and packed the edges with mud to hold heat. They moved like they'd done this before. Meanwhile, across the forest, chaos had begun. A group of lizard-like students argued over who should lead. Their shelter collapsed before it was finished. Another group of insectoid aliens had built a platform high in the trees, but it tilted and nearly fell. Others wandered far, searching for tools, but finding only thick undergrowth and cold wind. Night came fast on the forest moon. Fog rolled in, and the temperature dropped. Many students shivered under flimsy roofs or curled against tree trunks. They had firestones, but no dry wood. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder. Many shelters leaked or collapsed. Confusion spread. Some called out into the night. Others tried to light fires but only made smoke. But from the hill, a warm glow appeared. Inside a small opening was a round wooden door, made from tree bark and tied with vines. Smoke rose gently from a vent in the hilltop. The inside was dry and warm, lit with soft flames. Liam was baking something in a clay pot. Amber had built beds from leaves and cloth. They had built a hobbit house in 3 hours. Nearby students, cold and wet, noticed the glow. They stared in silence. Someone whispered, Did the humans do that?" Another replied, "No way. That can't be real. Not that fast." But it was real. The humans had not only survived the first night, they were thriving. They hadn't rushed, hadn't fought, and hadn't panicked. They had built something safe and strong. On the second morning, as the sun rose through the trees and mist hung low over the forest, a few curious alien students began walking toward the hill. They needed to see it for themselves. And in the distance, from the hobbit house in the hill, came the smell of cooked food and quiet laughter. Morning light broke through the thick trees, but it didn't bring comfort. Most of the alien students had not slept well. Their shelters were either broken, soaked, or too weak to keep out the cold night. Some were still huddled under wet branches, others trying to dry their clothes by smoking logs that barely caught fire. The first full day of the survival test had begun, and already many felt like giving up. A group of feathered students from the HFY species sat shivering, their wings drooping. They had built a high nest, but the wind had knocked it down. Another group of strong, four-armed stonebacks had spent the night under a rock ledge. Even they looked tired and upset. "We need help," one of the HFY whispered. "No," the stoneback leader said firmly. "We do this our way. Asking the humans is shameful." But their ears had already caught the sounds from the hill again, hammering, digging, and even music. Soft humming echoed through the woods. Smoke continued to rise from the little chimney. In the hill, no one wanted to admit it out loud, but everyone was thinking the same thing. The humans were doing fine. Liam was outside now, cutting thick roots into clean sticks. Amber was planting some herbs near the entrance. Their hill house looked even better in daylight. It had a small fence made from twisted branches, and the ground around it was neatly cleared. Their clothes were dry. Their faces were calm. A small group of curious students decided to go up the hill. They walked slowly, unsure of how the humans would react. As they reached the top, Liam saw them and waved. "Hey," he said simply. "You look cold. Want to come in for a minute?" They looked at each other in surprise. "You let us in?" one of them asked. Amber nodded. "Sure. Just wipe your feet." Inside the hobbit house, it was warmer than they imagined. The walls were packed with thick leaves and sealed with mud. A small fire burned safely in a stone circle. Food was cooking in a pot, and the smell made their mouths water. "How did you build this?" one student asked, walking slowly around the room. "We used the hill," Liam said. "Dug into it. Used what we found. It's just about working with the land, not against it, and thinking ahead." Amber added, "Before the rain came, we sealed the roof with tree sap and layered bark." The alien students listened in silence. They felt both impressed and embarrassed. They had laughed at the humans, but now they sat in a warm, dry home while their own teams were freezing and frustrated. After a short while, they thanked Liam and Amber and went back to their groups. But they couldn't stop talking about what they saw. "They even made shelves inside the walls," one said. "And a fire that doesn't smoke up the room," another added. "They even grew herbs." And one day, soon, the whole survival zone was buzzing with the story of the human hill house. Some still refused to believe it. Others made excuses. "Humans must have hidden tech," someone said. "Or they practiced this for years," another. But a few students began asking new questions they hadn't thought about before. Why did we all run off right away? Why didn't we study the land first, like the humans did? As the second day passed, more shelters broke. Some students hurt themselves trying to climb trees. Others wasted time hunting animals that were too fast or too strong. Meanwhile, Liam and Amber built a water collector using tree leaves and carved a path so rain wouldn't pool near their door. They even found small berries nearby and started drying them under sunlight. One group of small reptilian aliens finally gave in and came to the hill before nightfall. "Can we stay nearby?" one asked quietly. "We won't bother you. We just want to be close." Liam looked at Amber. She nodded. "You can stay," Liam said, "but if you want warmth or food, you help." They agreed quickly. Soon, more students came. Some offered fruits, others brought dry grass, and one even showed how to make glue from crushed roots. The humans didn't turn anyone away, but they made sure it was fair. Anyone who wanted shelter or food had to share a skill or do a chore. As the sun set again, the hill was no longer just a home. It had become a camp, a center of survival. And the humans, once ignored and mocked, had become the quiet leaders of the forest. The third morning brought silence to most of the forest. Birds chirped, but many alien students stayed in their weak shelters, too tired to move. Some had bruises from fallen branches, others had gone hungry again. No team had made solid progress except the humans. On the hill, life looked different. Liam was outside brushing mud off new wooden boards. Amber was cooking in a clay oven they had shaped near the hobbit house wall. Steam rose from the food, mixing with the scent of baked roots and herbs. Students who had stayed nearby woke up warm and dry. They rubbed their eyes and stretched. Still surprised at how comfortable they felt, some of the new students were already doing chores. One blue-scaled student was stacking sticks neatly beside the house. Another was helping Amber grind dried leaves into powder. Liam showed to young ones how to tie vine knots that held stronger than alien string. More and more alien students walked up the hill that morning. Some came out of curiosity, some because their teams had fallen apart. None of them laughed at the humans anymore. A tall, red-furred alien named Torvik stepped forward, arms crossed. He was known for mocking Liam on the first day. Now, his voice was softer. "I want to learn," he said simply. Liam handed him a digging tool. "Start there," he said, pointing to Eastside Hill. "You'll help us make a food pit." No one argued. Torvik nodded and joined in. Soon, the hilltop looked like a real village. The Hobbit house was the center, and small shelters were being built around it. These new homes were stronger than the old ones dug halfway into the hill with wooden frames and bark-covered walls. Each was made by teams that now mixed species, feathered, scaled, and skinned students all worked side by side. One student with glowing eyes muttered, "I never thought I'd take orders from a human." A friend replied, "It's not really orders. They just know what they're doing." As the day went on, students who once refused to work with others now traded tips and tools. A group of insectoid students taught how to find high-protein bugs. A plant-based species showed how to turn flower sap into medicine for cuts. And humans kept showing how to build, plan, and stay calm. By mid-afternoon, the teachers monitoring the tests from hidden drones were whispering among themselves. "They were supposed to struggle," one said, "but they've created order." From panic, another added, "This is not what we expected." Yet no one wanted to stop it. The students were learning more than survival. They were learning teamwork, respect, and leadership in a way no tests had ever shown before. Late in the day, a cold wind started blowing again. A dark cloud rolled over the forest. The students, still scattered in the woods, hurried to the hill, remembering the last storm. They didn't wait to be invited. They arrived holding sticks, roots, fruits, anything they could offer in return. Amber met them with a smile. "You help, you stay," she said again. They did. A group gathered to reinforce the fences around the camp. Others carried stones to weigh down the roofs. The Hobbit house glowed from within, and its warmth stretched into the new shelters nearby. Inside, Liam helped place warm rocks under the beds, a trick his grandfather had taught him back on Earth. Rain began to fall, but this time, no one panicked. Students worked through it. Laughter even returned. Torvik slipped in the mud and landed in a puddle, and instead of yelling, he laughed so hard his fur shook. The storm passed quickly, and for the first time, the forest didn't feel scary. The cold night didn't hurt, and hunger didn't bite so hard. Near the fire, an alien student whispered, "We called them weak." Another replied, "They were just quiet." They watched, and then they built. A third added, "They didn't try to win. They tried to survive and helped us survive too." As the stars came out, the hill village glowed gently under the moonlight. The forest was still wild, but now it felt more like a place of learning than fear. And Liam and Amber, to humans who came quietly into the test, had become the heart of it all, not through power or control, but through simple, steady kindness and action. The fourth day began with the sound of birds and gentle wind through the trees. But for once, the forest did not feel wild or dangerous round the hill. There were now nearly 20 shelters, each made with care and teamwork. The once scattered alien students had formed a peaceful camp in the Hobbit house built by them. Humans stood proudly at its center. Liam and Amber started their morning early, as usual. Amber stirred a pot of warm soup, made from dried roots and herbs, while Liam fixed the outer wall of one of the nearby shelters. They didn't see themselves as leaders, but everyone naturally looked to them for guidance. Near the fire pit, Torvik and a few others sat together, sharing a simple breakfast. He watched the humans work and shook his head slowly. "They don't stop," he said. "They don't shout either," replied a small feathered student. "They just do what needs to be done." And now we're all still here because of it, said another Dot every day since the first night. New students had joined the growing camp. Some had come from broken shelters, others from teams that gave up or turned on each other. Many were surprised by how welcome they felt once they offered help. Some students still kept to themselves. They watched from the edge of the camp, unsure whether to trust the humans or the new mixed teams. They had grown up thinking humans were too emotional, too weak. But the last few days had challenged that belief. Around midday, a strange sound echoed through the forest, deep and rumbling. Students looked up, confused. The ground vibrated slightly under their feet. Liam stopped what he was doing. That's not thunder, he said. Amber frowned. Something big is moving. Moments later, two students came running from the north path. One of them shouted, a ground beast. It's huge and heading this way. Panic started to rise. Some students grabbed their tools. Others looked around for places to hide. The forest rustled in the distance, louder and louder. A few ran toward the trees, afraid. Liam raised his hand. Don't scatter. But not everyone listened. Amber quickly climbed a stump and called out, we need to move together. Get inside the shelters if they're strong, or come to the Hobbit house. Liam pointed toward the lower hill. Help the younger ones first. The ground shook harder. Trees swayed. The distant growl of the beast grew louder. Students rushed into action not with fear, but with purpose. Those near the edge of camp grabbed hands and helped each other run to safety. Torvik picked up a younger student and ran toward the hill. A group of insectoid students formed a wall near the entrance, holding sharp sticks. Liam ran to the side of the Hobbit house and pushed a lever. A hidden sliding door sealed off the entrance with thick branches and mud. It wasn't perfect, but it would buy them time. Everyone waited in silence, breath held. Then the noise faded. The ground stopped shaking. The growl was now distant. Whatever creature had passed through the area had changed direction, perhaps sensing too many bodies or the smoke from the fires. A long silence followed. Finally, someone whispered, is it gone? Liam slowly opened the door and looked outside. After a moment, he nodded. We're safe. The camp slowly came back to life. Students stepped out of shelters, eyes wide, hearts pounding. But no one was hurt. No one had been left behind. They had stayed together. They had protected each other. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, the camp gathered around the fire. The mood was quiet but calm. Students spoke in soft voices, sharing how they felt during the scare. I thought we were done. 4, said one. Me too, said another. But no one ran this time. We moved like one team. Torvik looked at Liam and Amber. You taught us that, not with words, but with actions. Liam smiled, a little embarrassed. We just wanted to survive. And because of that, Amber added, so did everyone else. The fire cracked gently as the stars began to appear. Tonight, the forest no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like a teacher. And in the center of the forest, a group of students, once strangers, once proud, once scattered, had become something more. They were a team, and they had learned to survive, not by being the strongest or fastest, but by working together and thinking clearly. Just like the two humans who had quietly built a hobbit house into a hill. In only 3 hours. The fifth morning felt different. The forest was the same: tall trees, soft mist, birds calling through the leaves, but the students had changed. There was no more fear in their eyes, no more complaints. They had found a rhythm. And the hilltop camp had become a small village. Liam walked around with a basket, checking each shelter. Amber followed with a notepad made from bark, keeping track of food and water. They weren't in charge officially, but everyone listened to them now. The berry store is full, Amber said, and the rain traps gave us clean water last night. Good. Liam nodded. We can start teaching how to preserve the berries today. Students who once ignored each other now worked side by side. A group of 3 different species, one with 6 fingers, one with sharp horns, and one with soft feathers, were building a clay oven together. A young insectoid was sweeping leaves from the camp offs. He waved happily as Liam passed by. The camp felt like a family. But that didn't mean everything was perfect. a student named Rivik. Tall and sharp-eyed, had stayed silent most of the time. His team had broken apart early, and while he joined the camp, he refused to work with others. He made his own small shelter far from the Hobbit house and never accepted food or help. One afternoon, Rivik stood at the edge of the camp, watching Liam carve wooden bowls. After a moment, he spoke. "You think you've won, don't you?" he said. Liam didn't look up. "There's no winning here. We're just trying to make it through the week." "This isn't survival," Rivik said. "This is comfort. You've made it easy for everyone." Amber looked over. "Easy? Nothing here was easy. We worked hard for every wall, every fire." "No." Rivik shook his head. "You've made them soft. They follow you instead of learning to lead." Liam stood up. "We didn't tell anyone to follow. They chose. And we help because it's right, not because we want control." Rivik said nothing more and walked away. Later that day, he left the camp with a pack and some tools. No one stopped him. Some students looked worried. But Liam said gently, "Sometimes people need time alone to understand." The day moved on. Students worked on new projects, hanging racks for drying food, a wind spinner that scared away birds, and even a small underground storage hole for keeping things cool. The teachers watching from their hidden base took notes. "They've built more in 5 days than most groups in past years," one said. "And they haven't used any forbidden tech," another replied. "Just brains and cooperation." As night came, the sky was clear and stars filled the darkness. Students sat together near the big fire pit, sharing stories from their home planets. One small alien from a moon full of storms told of flying inside a tornado with his brother. Another from a dry desert world spoke of how they could survive without water for 5 days. When Liam was asked to speak, he smiled and shared a simple memory. "When I was young," he said, "my family went camping near the mountains. My dad taught me how to build a shelter using trees and rope. It rained hard that night, but we stayed dry. I never forgot that. That's why, when I saw this forest, I didn't panic. I remember that shelter." The students nodded in silence. Even those who had doubted humans now saw them in a new light. It wasn't magic or strength. It was experience, calm thinking, and heart. Later, before sleep, Amber checked the camp again. Most shelters were secure. Fires were low but warm. The students slept peacefully. But she noticed one thing: Rivik hadn't returned. The forest was quiet, but her heart felt heavy. She whispered to Liam, "I hope he's okay." Liam nodded. "We'll check on him tomorrow. We won't leave anyone behind." As the camp slept under the stars, the Hobbit house glowed softly in the hill, standing as a symbol of what humans had brought to this survival test: not just tools or ideas, but a way of thinking that turned fear into hope and strangers into one team. The 6th day began with a soft drizzle falling over the forest. The mist made the camp feel cool and calm. Liam and Amber woke early, ready to check on the shelters and the students. Today was important not just for survival, but for making sure everyone was safe and strong. Amber noticed Liam looked thoughtful. "What's on your mind?" she asked Rivik. Liam said quietly, "He left days ago." "And we haven't heard from him?" Amber nodded. "We should find him. He's still part of the group." They gathered a small team: Torvik, the red-furred alien who had changed since joining the humans, a small glowing-eyed student named Nelra, and a strong insectoid called Karen. Together, they prepared to search the forest beyond the camp. Before leaving, Amber handed each team member a small bundle of food and water. "We don't leave anyone behind," she said. The team moved carefully through the trees, following possible paths Rivik might have taken. They looked for signs of broken branch, footprints, or anything unusual. The forest was thick, but the team worked well together, calling out quietly and keeping track of their route. After a few hours, Nelra spotted fresh footprints near a small stream. "These could be Rivik's," she said. They followed the tracks and soon found Rivik sitting alone by the water. He looked tired but unharmed when he saw the team. He didn't smile but didn't hide either. "I didn't want to come back," Rivik said softly. "I needed to be alone, to think." Torvik stepped forward. We missed you. Rivik looked at the group. I was angry at first. I thought the humans made things too easy. But now I see they made us stronger by teaching us to work together, not to fight alone. Liam sat beside him. We all need time to learn. Some faster, some slower. But no one is left behind. Rivik nodded. Can I come back? Of course, Amber said with a smile. The team returned to camp together. When they arrived, the students welcomed Rivik back warmly. His shelter was repaired, and food was shared. That evening, the camp gathered for a special meeting. The teachers had arrived with a small group of visitors, senior leaders from the academy, who had not expected such success. Liam and Amber explained how the camp had grown, how cooperation and respect had replaced fear and pride. The alien students spoke too, telling stories of what they had learned from the humans and from each other. The visitors were surprised and impressed. This is more than a survival test, one said. It is a lesson in unity. The senior leaders thanked Liam, Amber, and all the students for their hard work and spirit after the meeting. The camp relaxed around the fire. Laughter and music filled the night. Students shared dances and songs from their planets, and humans joined in with simple rhythms and smiles. Liam looked at Amber and whispered, "We did it." Amber nodded. Not just us, everyone. As the week neared its end, the hill camp had become a place where students didn't just survive, they thrived. They had learned new skills, made new friends, and discovered that differences were strengths, not weaknesses. And the Hobbit house, still warm and glowing in the hill, stood as a symbol of hope, teamwork, and the quiet power of humans who never gave up. The final morning of the survival test arrived quietly. The forest was calm, and the camp shone with the soft light of dawn. The students woke with a mix of excitement and sadness. 7 days ago, they had arrived as strangers, scattered and scared. Now, they were a team stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. Liam and Amber stood outside the Hobbit house, watching the students prepare for the last challenge to work together and build a shelter large enough to protect all of them from the coming storm. Teams gathered tools and materials. The lessons learned over the week filled their minds: how to dig, how to build walls with wood and mud, how to make fires that would not smoke. Even the shyest students stepped forward, eager to help. Rivik worked alongside Torvik and a small group, carefully shaping wood beams. Nelrut and Karen mixed clay and leaves to strengthen the walls. Amber and Liam moved between groups, offering advice and encouragement. As the day passed, the camp transformed. What had once been small, separate shelters grew into one large, strong home built into the hillside, with wide doors and thick walls. Students laughed as they worked, sharing stories and songs. The senior leaders returned to watch the final test. They observed quietly, surprised by the calm teamwork and steady progress. As the sun began to set, the storm clouds gathered on the horizon. A cold wind swept through the trees, and soon, the first drops of rain fell. Inside the new shelter, all students gathered. They were dry and warm, protected by the walls they had built together. Liam looked around at the faces, tired but happy. "This is more than a shelter," he said softly. "It's a symbol of what we can do when we work together." Amber nodded. "We started with fear, but now we have trust. That is stronger than any wall." The storm raged outside, but inside, the camp was peaceful. Students shared food and blankets. They sang songs from their home worlds and told stories of the week's adventures. When the rain finally stopped, the sun rose on a new day, a day of celebration. The senior leaders called all students to the hilltop. They praised the teamwork, the creativity, and the spirit shown during the test. "You have all passed," one leader said, "not just because you survived, but because you learned what it means to be united." Liam and Amber smiled as the students cheered. Years ago, humans had been seen as weak in survival tests. Now, they were the quiet strength that had brought everyone together. As the shuttle arrived to take the students home, the forest held its calm once more. The Hobbit house in the hill would stand for years, a reminder that survival was not about strength alone, but about kindness, patience, and teamwork. And in the heart of the forest, a new story was born, a story of humans who built a home in a hill in just 3 hours and changed the way an entire galaxy thought about survival.